Stories of struggle and survival, a vital part of American history, a hidden history. Here are Melanie Michael and Rod Carter.
Hello, I'm Melanie Michael.
And I'm Rod Carter. Thanks so much for joining us for this Hidden History special.
Stories of African Americans that made a tremendous impact and sacrifice for our country. We began with the first true activist of the modern civil rights era right here in Florida, but not many people know their story.
Yeah, you know, I heard this story when I was a child. Their names are Harry T. and Harriet V. Moore, and a place of honor has been built to show their accomplishments of their lives and the tragic circumstances of their deaths.
Before Martin, before Medgar, there were the Moores, Harry T. and Harriet V. Moore. The Moores were married civil rights activists from Mims, Florida, a tiny town along the Space Coast. It's just east of Orlando. On December 25th, 1951, someone placed sticks of dynamite underneath the front porch of their modest shotgun home.
That was the bomb that was heard around the world. They told me that people as far as Titusville and Scotchmore came running to see what happened. They thought NASA blew up. Harry T. Moore passed away that day, and Harriet died 9 days later.
Harry Moore was the secretary of the NAACP. He routinely registered black voters. He stood up and spoke out against lynchings.
They were the first couple that really took it by the horn. They didn't want to sweep it under the rug.
It made him and his wife targets.
They came home, the KKK was lurking in the orange groves. They didn't know it. They were waiting.
Many believe that blast shined a brighter light on the civil rights movement.
It's about 12 acres.
William Gary has dedicated the last several years of his life to this, the Harry T. and Harriet Moore Memorial Park and Museum.
This was all orange groves out here.
And this, a chance to see how the Moores lived. There's a replica of their home, complete with an icebox, wood-burning stove,
The radio that, they had.
touches of 1951. Gary told me not enough people know about the Moores and the sacrifice they made for freedom.
The early civil rights movement received a tremendous boost, and the interest in their story has just grown by leaps and bounds over the years.
At the Moore Museum, take a brief walk through African American history. You can see photos, info, even their voter registration book from decades ago, signed by Harry and Harriet Moore.
And it's a very emotional thing with me. I grew up in the segregated South in Mississippi, actually in a hotbed of civil rights activity. So my ability to get a college education, to be an engineer and work for NASA is a direct result of things that they were fighting for back then.
It's been more than 66 years since that bomb exploded here in Brevard County. A bomb blast that everyone says was so loud it could be heard for miles and miles away. And to this day, no one's ever been brought to justice. And though they want that to happen one day, they don't hold out hope. Only the hope that soon, everyone will know of the Moores and their story.
Harry Moore was fighting against lynchings, trying to get legislation passed to outlaw lynching. He was fighting against police brutality, which we still have an issue with today.
In 1945, Harry T. Moore formed something called the Florida Progressive Voters League, and it became the executive director of that organization. That organization, by the way, very instrumental in helping register more than 100,000 African-American voters here in the state of Florida. And by the way, he worked with a lot of folks from right here in Tampa Bay throughout his years in that organization. Other artifacts of the Moores' home and their story on display at the Smithsonian National Museum of African-American History and Culture in D.C.